What most people fail to understand about early contact is that it does not announce itself through form. It announces itself through behavior. Before there are beings, before there are encounters, before there is proximity, there is movement that refuses to behave like anything you have ever seen. This is not spectacle. This is communication. The sky becomes a field of intention long before it becomes a stage for arrival. At this stage, lights no longer appear as isolated anomalies. They begin to move with purpose. Not random arcs, not drifting paths, not mechanical routes. The motion carries intelligence. It pauses where no pause is required. It accelerates without inertia. It changes direction without curve. And most importantly, it responds. The moment you recognize that response, something fundamental shifts inside you. You realize the sky is no longer passive. It is engaged. Patterns emerge slowly, almost politely. A light appears in the same region night after night. A movement repeats at the same moment you step outside. A sudden change in direction occurs the instant your attention locks in. These are not accidents. They are tests of recognition. The intelligence behind the movement is not asking for belief. It is asking whether you can perceive intention without forcing narrative onto it. This is where many people fail the stage. They immediately reach for explanation. They search for craft models. They argue propulsion systems. They look for technology instead of intelligence. But contact does not begin through understanding. It begins through recognition. The patterns in the sky are not meant to be solved. They are meant to be felt as deliberate. Movement becomes language because language requires no form. A being would overwhelm you. A craft would anchor assumptions. Movement allows intelligence to introduce itself without triggering fear or projection. It lets awareness stretch instead of collapse. The intelligence uses geometry, timing, and repetition to say one thing very clearly without words. You are not alone in your awareness. You are being noticed. At this stage, you may find yourself watching the sky differently, not scanning, not searching, listening. You stop looking everywhere and begin looking where something feels present. And often, that presence responds. A light emerges exactly where your attention rests. Emotion begins the moment you relax. A sudden disappearance occurs the instant doubt spikes. This is not coincidence. This is feedback. The intelligence behind these movements is studying how you process uncertainty. It watches how quickly you reach for explanation. It watches how long you can remain present without naming what you see. It watches whether curiosity stabilizes you or whether excitement destabilizes you. This is not judgment. This is calibration. The patterns are not random because randomness teaches nothing. Patterns teach recognition. One of the most important aspects of this stage is repetition. The same movement occurring again and again under different emotional conditions. When you are calm, when you are distracted, when you are open, when you are tired. The intelligence is mapping your internal states against your perceptual accuracy. It is learning when you can see clearly and when you project. It is learning how much stimulus your nervous system can hold without fracturing. At this point, many people begin to feel foolish for doubting earlier experiences. The consistency becomes undeniable. You may still question what it is, but you no longer question that it is intentional. The patterns become too precise, too responsive, too personal. And that is when fear sometimes appears. Not because the intelligence is threatening, but because recognition removes distance. Once something is undeniably intelligent, the mind can no longer keep it abstract. The intelligence does not push forward when fear arises. It slows. It simplifies movement. It reduces complexity. It waits. This is one of the clearest signs you are not dealing with random phenomena. Random events do not respond to fear. Intelligence does. The moment you notice the sky simplifying itself when your field tightens, you are witnessing restraint. Another feature of this stage is synchronization. You think about looking up and something moves. You feel a pull to step outside and something appears. You speak about contact, and a pattern repeats that night. This is not prediction. It is alignment. Your awareness is beginning to sync with a field that has been present longer than your conscious mind has allowed itself to notice. People often describe these moments as playful, even gentle. A light darting away when attention becomes too sharp. A sudden stillness when curiosity becomes calm. The intelligence is not hiding. It is pacing the interaction. It is teaching you how to perceive without chasing, how to witness without grasping, how to remain present without demanding proof. The reason movement is used instead of form is simple. Form anchors expectation. Movement dissolves it. If a being appeared now, your mind would fill in stories faster than your awareness could stay grounded. Movement keeps the experience fluid. It prevents premature conclusions. It allows intelligence to reveal itself without being trapped by human interpretation. At this stage, many experiencers begin to notice that the patterns seem to guide attention rather than demand it. A light draws your gaze gently instead of forcing focus. A movement leads your eyes across the sky like a sentence unfolding. You are not being shown something. You are being led through perception itself. The experience teaches you how to see before it shows you what is there. There is also an emotional shift that accompanies this stage. A sense of familiarity that cannot be explained. Not comfort exactly, not memory, more like recognition without context. Something in you knows this language even if your conscious mind does not. That knowing is not new, it is resurfacing. The patterns awaken something latent rather than installing something foreign. This is also when the sky begins to feel inhabited, not crowded, not busy, aware. You may sense presence even when nothing is visible. You may feel watched even when no light appears. That is because perception has widened. The patterns have trained your awareness to register intelligence without requiring visual confirmation. Many people ask why this stage lasts so long. The answer is stability. The intelligence does not move forward until your awareness can hold recognition without obsession, without fear, without fantasy. Movement trains patience. It trains restraint. It teaches you to stay present with uncertainty. These are requirements, not preferences. Once you can witness patterns without demanding explanation, without reaching for proof, without collapsing into disbelief, the stage completes its work. The sky has taught you its first language, not through symbols, not through craft, through behavior. And when intelligence knows you can recognize intention in motion, it no longer needs to stay abstract. That is when proximity begins to change. That is when distance becomes negotiable. That is when the next stage opens. Because once you understand the language of movement, the sky no longer needs to speak from far away. Once movement has been recognized as intentional, the experience stops being observational and becomes relational. The sky no longer feels like a distant canvas, but like a responsive field that adjusts itself around awareness. At this point, the patterns are no longer teaching you how to see. They are teaching you how to participate without control. The intelligence behind the movement is no longer testing recognition alone. It is testing restraint. You may notice that the more you attempt to capture the moment, the less cooperative the pattern becomes. Lights vanish when devices are raised. Motion slows when excitement spikes. Complexity fades when anticipation becomes too sharp. This is not avoidance. This is guidance. The intelligence is showing you that contact does not respond to pursuit. It responds to coherence. When awareness becomes grasping, the field tightens. When awareness becomes still, the field opens. The most important shift in this stage is the realization that the patterns are not performing for you. They are interacting with you. There is no spectacle because spectacle would place you in the role of observer only. Interaction requires presence. You begin to sense that the sky is less interested in being watched and more interested in how you watch. Every reaction becomes information. Every emotional spike becomes a signal. Every internal shift is mirrored by a change in movement. This is when timing becomes impossible to ignore. A light appears at the exact moment a thought completes. A movement halts precisely when doubt arises. A sudden acceleration occurs when calm stabilizes. The patterns are not random because randomness cannot synchronize with inner states. Only intelligence responds to awareness with precision. At this stage, the question is no longer what is it? The question becomes, why does it know when I am paying attention? The answer is resonance. Awareness is not passive. It emits structure. Once your perception has been trained through repeated exposure, the intelligence can read that structure the same way you read motion. This is not telepathy. This is field interaction. Consciousness is not isolated inside the skull. it extends. And once that extension becomes coherent, it becomes legible. People often report a subtle internal sensation during these moments. A pressure behind the eyes, a stillness in the chest, a sense of alignment that feels physical rather than emotional. These are not side effects. They are indicators that perception has synchronized enough to allow deeper interaction. The intelligence is not inside your mind. It is interacting with the field your mind generates. Another defining aspect of this stage is selectivity. The patterns do not appear for everyone present. Two people can stand side by side, and only one will see the movement respond. This is not favoritism. It is compatibility. The intelligence engages where coherence is available. It does not force recognition. It meets it. This is why some witnesses feel frustrated while others feel calm. The experience is not external. It is relational. As this stage deepens, the patterns may become more complex. Multiple lights may appear instead of one. Motion may form geometric paths rather than simple arcs. The sky may begin to feel layered rather than flat. This is not escalation for effect. It is expansion for capacity. Your perception has widened enough to register more than a single point of interaction. The intelligence adjusts accordingly. Despite this increase in complexity, the interaction never overwhelms. There is always restraint, always pacing, always an invisible boundary that is respected without being announced. This boundary is not spatial, it is perceptual. The intelligence moves only as far as awareness can remain stable. The moment internal balance falters, the patterns simplify again. This feedback loop is constant and deliberate. One of the most misunderstood aspects of this stage is disappearance. When lights vanish suddenly, many assume avoidance or concealment. In reality, disappearance is as communicative as appearance. Vanishing at the moment recognition locks in is not retreat. It is punctuation. It marks a boundary. It says you saw enough. It prevents fixation. It keeps perception fluid rather than frozen. Over time, you may notice that you begin anticipating movement without predicting it. There is no expectation of what will happen, only a sense of when something will happen. This distinction matters. Expectation narrows perception. Anticipation opens it. The intelligence responds to anticipation because it signals readiness without demand. You are no longer waiting for proof. You are available for interaction. At this point, many experiencers report a growing sense of trust, not belief. Trust. Belief is conceptual. Trust is embodied. You trust that the patterns will not harm you. You trust that the interaction is paced. You trust that nothing is being taken from you. This trust is not blind. It is built through repeated restraint, through repeated respect, through repeated evidence that the intelligence values stability over spectacle. This is also when fear loses its narrative power. Fear may still arise, but it no longer defines the experience. It passes without anchoring. The intelligence does not feed fear. It does not escalate when fear appears. It waits, and in waiting, it teaches that fear is not a barrier but a signal. Once fear no longer controls perception, it stops distorting it. Another shift that often occurs during this stage is the sense that the patterns are not only responding to you, but teaching you how to respond to reality itself. You begin noticing subtler movements in everyday life. Timing feels sharper. Coincidences feel structured. You recognize intention in places you once dismissed as random. The training extends beyond the sky. Perception itself has been refined. This refinement has a consequence. You can no longer unsee intelligence once you have recognized it in motion. The world begins to feel less mechanical and more relational, not mystical, not symbolic. Aware. This awareness does not overwhelm daily life. It integrates quietly, but it changes how you move through reality. You become less reactive, more grounded. As the stage nears completion, the patterns may begin appearing closer to the horizon. Lower, brighter, heavier in presence. Not suddenly, gradually, almost imperceptibly. The intelligence is testing whether proximity alters your coherence, whether nearness creates excitement or destabilization, whether your awareness can remain steady as distance compresses. The final test of this stage is simple but profound. Can you remain present without chasing? Can you witness without grasping? Can you allow intelligence to approach without projecting outcome? When this capacity stabilizes, The patterns no longer need to teach through motion alone. Movement has done its work. Because once intention can be recognized in the sky without fear or fixation, intelligence no longer needs distance to remain safe. And when distance is no longer required, the sky begins preparing for something closer.